So every Wednesday night at the Kollel of Alpin, we study the laws of prayer from 7 to 7:30 p.m. I know it's Tuesday, but social distancing, we're all home, so I guess it doesn't really matter. We go through the Mishnah Berurah, which is the explanation of the Chafetz Chaim on Or Chaim, on one of the parts of the Code of Jewish Law. And these, we're learning right now the laws of prayer, different things that have to be done when one prays. Now, when we talk about prayer, there's really, I would say, two general types of prayer in Judaism. One type of prayer is you just pray your own words, yourself, how you feel. Someone just asked me today, they don't know how to pray. They know someone who's very sick. So how do they pray? It's very simple. You just talk to God, and ask Him to heal this person who is sick, or speak to God and just ask Him for whatever you need. And that could be done in any language. And the main thing is that you have the proper intent. You really ask God what you need. Like a poor person, it says you should daven. You should pray like a poor person who's asking for food. That's how you should pray to God, because everything comes from God. So to sincerely ask for what you need is the most important thing. That's one type of prayer. You can just speak to God whenever you want. There's another type of prayer, which is prayer which was set up and formally organized by the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah, the men of the Great Assembly, thousands of years ago. And there are different parts of it. And that's what we usually go to a shul, a synagogue, to daven with a minyan 3 times a day. There's a mitzvah that it be done with 10 men. There are certain prayers that are impossible to say without a minyan. So that's why it's very hard and very sad now that we're not able to daven with a minyan. And it's nice that in certain places they found ways to have a minyan while social distancing. In Lakewood, they just had everyone praying on their porch in a courtyard. Everyone's at their own house, and they have somebody in the middle serving as the cantor. And it's very beautiful. They're able to have a minyan while social distancing, but unfortunately, obviously, we all can't do that now. And what the men of the Great Assembly set up, they were obviously, many of them were prophets, and they were knew the Kabbalah, knew the Jewish mysticism, and they set up certain words that have a special effect in the heavens and the spiritual worlds to have the most impact possible. And the main part of the prayer service is what we're talking about. That's called Shmona Esrei. That is the part of the prayer service where there are 19 blessings, and it's said silently. Now, in Shachris and Mincha, in the morning service and the afternoon service, we repeat it, not in the evening service. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about different laws during the Shmona Esrei service. So we are on the Mishnah Berurah, Siman Tzadi Zayin, which is number 97. So I'm going to read the Hebrew and then translate. Lo yigahik, one should not motzi megufo lefiv neficha metoch savu. One should not burp when he's praying. Right? It's very not very appropriate to burp when we're davening. We learned that many of the halachas, many of the laws of how you have to daven are derived from how a person would go if he's going to meet an important person. Right? If you're going to meet the President of the United States, you're not going to wear sandals and shorts or a t-shirt. You would go in a suit. Guys and women would dress nice also. And you also wouldn't burp in front of his face. I mean, most normal people, even if they don't like the president, wouldn't burp in front of his face. But you have to go like you would go in front of a respectful person. Right? That's why you have to wear shoes when you daven. We mentioned you shouldn't daven in your pajamas, because we have to actually feel like we're praying in front of the king. So one shouldn't burp. One shouldn't yawn. Now let's say you have to yawn and you can't do anything about it. You should cover your mouth when you yawn when you're praying, so you shouldn't. Your mouth shouldn't be open. Right? It's very disrespectful to yawn in front of God. We're going to learn later that when you daven Shmona Esrei, it's like you have God's presence right in front of you. The Zayir Shlo Yaniach Yado Al Santer, when you daven, you shouldn't put your hand on your chin, because it's very arrogant. Right? We mentioned that when you pray, you have to appear humble. You have to be humble in front of God, like a poor person who's asking for his needs. So if you look in an arrogant manner, that is not the appropriate way to daven. So that was the Shulchan Aruch on the top. Now we're going to learn the explanation of the Mishnah Berurah. Lefachik mitoch ones, we said to belch, who had in the begihu mitoch ones like yisura, umadlo nakto efshem mishum. Right, the bolek chivel ani achiado sheim psicho piv kol kach V'gam hu l'zman muad ma'od ma she'en kim b'fihuk. So he says that, right, obviously if you burp and you can't control yourself, then you can't control yourself when you burp. But he mentions that he just points out that the Shulchan Aruch said you have to cover your mouth when you yawn as opposed to burping, because when you yawn, usually your mouth is open for a very long time. But not so much with burping. Okay, Santero, we said don't put your hand on your chin. Hainu lechi atachton, that's the bottom of the mouth, the chin. V'chazanim ha'osim came b'shasa zemer mutter. L'fi she'enim mischavnin lagasos ela lehanim es hakol, aber shelo b'shasa zemer aser. Says, but the chazanim that do this, I guess they would put their hand under their chin when they were singing the prayers in the synagogue. They are allowed to do it because they're not doing it because of gaiva, they're not doing it because of haughtiness, but rather just to help them sing. Okay, that was halacha aleph. So one shouldn't burp or yawn when he davens. Beis. Also lo loruk, one should not spit when he davens. V'im iyavshar lo shelo loruk. Now let's say you have to spit, you have something in your mouth, you can't control it. Mavlio biksuso. You should put it in your garment, spit into your garment so it can't be seen. Now if you're the type of person that doesn't want to spit into his garment because you can't see anything disgusting, which is probably many of us nowadays, right, and you can't get it into your garment and get it to be absorbed because it's kind of gross, so you don't want to do that. You can spit behind you. Zarko is small, and if you can't spit behind you, you should spit to the left. Avalo limino, but you shouldn't spit to your right. But and you shouldn't spit in front of you. The aser, it's forbidden. Now he's going to say v'hadul kaman. Interesting point here. Shehofich panav l'tzad small tchila shehu yemin shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now he says here that if you have to spit, you should spit to the back, and if you can't spit to the back, you should spit to the left when you're davening. But he's going to ask a question now that we learn at the end of Shemona Esrei, we take 3 steps back, and then we bow to the left, to the right, and then forward. Why do we bow to the left first? The reason we bow to the left first when we take 3 steps back at the end of the Shemona Esrei prayer is because our left, it's ki'ilu, God is facing us when we're praying. God's divine presence is right in front of us when we pray. So when we go to the left, we bow to the left first, that's God's right. So we want to bow to God's right first. So he's asking here, why are we spitting to the left? Isn't spitting to the left God's right, and that's more disrespectful? So Yeshlomer, he says, the hatam kevin shema olam yardo shchina lamatam esar. We learned that God's presence doesn't go below 10 tvachim imkain, which is a certain measurement. God's presence is above, not below. Imkain ena shchina keneged hamispalo. Therefore, when a person is praying, God's presence is not directly in front. So therefore, if God's presence isn't actually right in front of you, but it's up a little bit, you can spit to the left, which is God's right, because God's presence, quote unquote, ki'ilu, is not there. But when you take 3 steps back, so you're going back from where you prayed, and you're juxtaposed to the Shekhinah, God's presence. I guess in general, when you're backing up, then you're to the general vicinity of God's presence, which is above you. So you go left first, which is God's right, and then front. So even though when we take 3 steps back, we bow left first, the reason is because that's God's right. When we spit, it's better not to spit at all, but if you have to spit, you can nevertheless still spit on the left. Okay, let's do the Mishnah Berurah on that. He says everything that's forbidden to do during the Shemona Esrei prayer is also forbidden after the Shemona Esrei prayer during the Tachnunim part. That's Elokai Nitzor at the end, after Sim Shalom. Because he says, any time that you have yet to take 3 steps back, that's considered like you're standing in front of God. And that's when you have to have that certain dignity and to behave in a certain way. Right, the case where you have to spit is you just can't. You have this stuff in your mouth. You got to get rid of it, and you can't focus on davening at all. The achar harakika yamtin kidei hiluch daled amos. Interesting. After you spit, you have to wait the time that it takes to walk daled amos, which is like 6.5 feet. Kidel elbus mitzadi basiv tests. So after you spit in davening, if you have to spit, you got to wait the time it takes to go daled amos, which is like 6.5 feet. So that's about 3 seconds, something like that. So we said you have to spit. If you have to spit and you could put it in your garment, you shouldn't put it in your garment which is above your clothes. You should use your undershirt because you don't want like spit on your garment when you're trying to pray. It's not good. Medina Senu Shaloshin Patselis, which is a kerchief. People have like little hankies. That could be fine. Even though you could technically see the spit on the handkerchief, it's not considered gross because that's what it was made for. But other rabbis say you should really, still not cool to have spit on your handkerchief, and you should cover it. This is what we said before. Right? Either you don't want it, right? If you have to spit and you don't want to do it in your garment, either because it's a nice garment or you find it gross, that's the case where you could spit in back of you. But you definitely shouldn't spit facing up, because that makes you look like a heretic. If you spit towards the sky when you're davening, that looks like you're, God forbid, spitting at God, and that's very, very bad. So don't do that. Right, like we said, when a person davens, when a person prays the Shemona Esrei, God's presence is in front of him. If you have no choice, you have to get this stuff out of your mouth, and you just can't do it to the left to someone standing there, you can't do it behind you, and you can only do it in front of you or to the right, then you could do it. Yesh lomer de'atam v'achronim tirtzu b'pshitus dehacha b'shas rikikasa masalik mimenu kavod hashchina u'kamosha kasa b'simen gimel le'inyin hischabdu mechubadim al kein azlina basar yemenu smol shel adam ma she'en kein b'simen da'ari b'shtachava sh'mishtachava b'sov tfilas ol hashchina al kein azlina basar yemen d'shchina. He's just explaining another reason of why when we take 3 steps back we look at the left. We go to the left first, which is the right of Hashem. He says because when a person's spitting, then God's presence isn't there anymore, so we don't have to be worried about God's presence because God's presence isn't there when you spit. Okay. Okay, let's go to Halacha Gimel. Imkina oksaso. If a louse is biting you when you're davening, you should use your garment to remove it. Right? You want to get rid of it because it's very hard to focus on prayer if you see a louse biting you. But you should not use your hand. That's only when you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei. But if you're not in the middle of Shemona Esrei, then you can use your hand. Now, why shouldn't you use your hand? So we mentioned a few weeks ago when we learned this, that there are certain things that if you touch, when you're davening, you have to wash your hands. And since during Shemona Esrei, the 1819 blessing prayer, you can't move, it's very hard to wash your hands because you can't move. So one of those things that you have to wash your hands for if you touch is a louse or lice. So if you are in the middle of Shemona Esrei, you shouldn't be touching it with your hands because you'll have to wash your hands and you can't get water. This is a similar thing if you scratch your head in the middle of davening. You shouldn't do that. Because if you scratch your head, you have to wash your hands, and you're not going to be able to do that in the middle of davening. Or if you touch a part of the body which is usually covered, you start scratching underneath your undershirt during davening. You'd have to wash your hands, and that can't be done during davening, during tefillah. But we're going to talk about like what if you do it? What if you did scratch your head? What if you did touch the louse? What is the halacha? Biyado. V'im avar v'natla yishav shekiyad bekosa. So what you do is, if you touch the louse or scratch your head or something, you wipe your hands on the wall or something around you. You wipe your hands off. This is what we spoke about earlier. It's any time that you have to wash your hands. There's certain halachas, certain times that you have to wash your hands according to Jewish law. So if you aren't able to do it, you have no other option. Then you can just take the table and go like that. So medalit if yuches to move sham to nageh bekinat tzarich lital yad of vayim. So we said mipnei brachor asher al yadayim v'kol shechein im hu kodem atfilah tzarich. Fine, that's what we said. Let's do halacha dalid. Im nishma talisa b'makomo. This happens all the time, especially with my talis. You have a talis during davening. Yachal amashmish bo lachziro. let's say in the middle of Shemona Esrei, your talis starts falling off. Are you allowed to put it back on? So if it's still on you, you're allowed to put it back on. Aval, im nafal kulo, if the whole talis fell off, any yachal lachser or leisatev bo dehave hefsek. If the entire talis fell off, you're not allowed to put it back on because it's a hefsek. It'll be an interruption. Why? Because if your entire talis falls off, when you put it on, again, you have to make a blessing. You have to make lisatev patzitzis. And you're not allowed to stop in the middle of Shemona Esrei to make a blessing, right? We're allowed to have no interruptions during Shemona Esrei, obviously unless it's emergency or something like that. But for sure, so if your talis falls off totally, you don't put it on. Don't put it back on. But if it just it's starting to fall off and it's still on you, even partially, then you can put it back on. So let's see the Mishnah Berurah on this. Yachal mashmesh afilu nafal ruba, right? Even if the majority of the talis falls off, if there's a little bit remaining, then you can put the talis back on. Kulo. Afilu im nishar adayim biyado hatifa haviyavzik. So if the whole talis fell off, even if you have it in your hand, you caught it, but it's off your body, can't put it back on. Ein yachal vim avar v'yisatif bo ein tzarich lahaschil mitchilas habracha. Now, what if the talis fell off and by accident you put it back on? Do you have to go back to the beginning of the blessing in Shemona Esrei you're on? No, you don't have to do that. Elo gomer tefillah v'holech. Just finish the Shemona Esrei. Uk'shiyigmar tefilaso yemashmesh bo v'yivarech. What you should do is you should feel the tzitzis, hold the tzitzis in your hand and feel them, and then you can make the bracha. Usually when we put on a talis, we make the blessing and then we put on the talis. But let's say you're in the middle of Shemona Esrei, it fell off totally, and you put on the talis, and you didn't make a bracha, right? You can't make a bracha in the middle of Shemona Esrei, but you put the talis on without a bracha. So what do? So you wait till the end of Shemona Esrei, and then you take the tzitzis in your hand, you feel the tzitzis, and then you make a bracha. V'ayin la'el b'simen ches sif tezvav, the Mishnah Berurah Sham, zaken shemesim bate einayim shekarim bril, imhem refuyim bechotmo shekarav lipo al yedei krios v'ishtachavayos nachon lahachmer shikshri metchila b'chut. If you have glasses like this, we all know people that wear glasses like this, and if you're davening and they're very loose, you should have a string on them so they don't fall off. My glasses, though, are not loose, and I'm not the type that would wear a string around my glasses. Dahavi hefsek im lo shehu tared al yedei zeh ve'en yachol lechavein yibishena kishisem bracha. He says if the talis falls totally and you're like so distracted by it that you just can't focus on davening, you're allowed to wait till you finish that bracha of Shemona Esrei and then put it on. And I guess you would make the bracha at the end of Shemona Esrei like we said. Okay, let's finish this siman with Sif Hey Hanose Masoi Al Kseifav. Let's say you're carrying something on your shoulders. You're traveling, you're a worker, you're a porter. V'yizman tefillah, and it comes the time to pray, comes the time to daven. Pachos me'arba kabin, if it is less volume than 4 kabin, a kav is a measurement. 4 kabin, according to the Chazon Ish, is 2.54 gallons. So if it's less than about 2.5 gallons, mafshila achar mispal, you could hang it on your back and pray. Right? You have a little package, right? Actually, that's kind of heavy. 2.5 gallons of water, I'm thinking, could be a little heavy. But up to that, you can hang on your back and you could pray. Arba kabin, but if it's more than that, manich magabe karkum mispal, then you have to put it down and then you could pray. The masoy shel arba kabin imheim olav mevatlan kavanasa, right? Because if you have such a heavy package on your that you're holding when you're davening, then you will be distracted when you daven. So again, we just learned many more of the halachas, many more of the laws that apply when davening Shemona Esrei. The idea is, and the main idea is that we want to have kavana, we want to have intent of the words that we're saying, because we're speaking to God, who can obviously do anything, is in control of everything. We're not in control, He's in control. And when we speak to God, especially in Shemona Esrei, we have to view it as we're speaking to a king. Right? We're talking here about the King of Kings. If we would go and meet Lahavdil, Aleph Alpha Havdalos, President Trump, or another government official, or somebody very important in the secular world, we would definitely act very dignified and we would dress appropriately. So all the more so how we should act and be dignified when we speak to God. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me. Or if you want to subscribe to receive these classes in an email, please don't hesitate to send a message.